3 years ago, I quit social media, both professionally and personally, but it was what happened in the years that followed that surprised even me. So I'm gonna walk you through how it went year by year, what I would do differently, and maybe what you can learn from it. Quitting social media isn't new to me. In 2012, I quit Twitter when I realized that the whole platform was kind of like walking into a crowded room where everybody was shouting random things and trying to talk over them. And sure, the idea to strike up conversations is there, but does it really work? I didn't love it. So quitting Twitter had absolutely no impact on my business because my audience wasn't really there. I mean, they were, but not to the same degree as other platforms. Fast forward to 2022, and I did the same thing on Instagram, just up and quit, but for a lot of different reasons. I wasn't comfortable with some of the policy changes. That had spurred me to look at my KPIs and realize that Instagram wasn't adding jack to my business, except more things to check off of my to-do list. Now, looking back, I can honestly say that it was because Instagram was shifting and I hadn't shifted my approach with it. But also, I didn't want to, not when YouTube is such a creator-friendly platform and I was seeing much better results. Not only that, they were longer lasting results. Content that I had created years prior was still bringing in leads, so it made more sense to quit Instagram and double down on YouTube. But then 2023 happened. I got sick with long COVID, and to stay in business, I had to take everything off of my plate that I could, which meant completely shifting my marketing plan. I thought it was only gonna be a few months, and then that turned into a few years. And you know what? It was freaking fantastic, and I would really like to go back to it. For the next 3 years, what I did was I focused on meta ads, a small ticket funnel, and then continuing to run the webinar funnel that all of my SEO content was driving traffic to. Stepping off of that content hamster wheel was freaking amazing. It also really changed my brain. I deleted my apps. I started to remember what life was like before social media became the way that we socialized. A lot of my focus during that time was on healing from long COVID, so I don't think I got to experience the full joy of being digitally disconnected, but I did experience this sense of spaciousness, an influx of my own ideas, not influenced by other people. I stopped feeling constantly on and constantly overwhelmed, and I was just enjoying the quiet. I enjoyed not having 100 opinions on things I didn't even need to know about, and I enjoyed not knowing about things that I had no control over. It's really difficult to explain the difference of your brain on social media versus off social media, but I just felt more connected. I felt more peaceful and more successful, not less. But how it changed my business was a little bit different. In the first year off of social, when I was in the thick of long COVID, I put what little energy I had toward pivoting to a small ticket funnel and ads. And here's why. Ads are the only truly scalable marketing avenue that we have. I can create an ad on a good day and let it run for weeks, if not months, before it fatigues. If it does fatigue, I can try a new audience before I try new ads. Truthfully, I had done some ads prior to this, but I should have done a lot more. And so I was actually really grateful that I was forced to put more into ads because it was overdue. I needed to make that shift in order to grow into the next stage of my business. In that first year, I also added a small ticket funnel because without content acting as a trust source, I needed a low commitment way for my audience to just kind of test the waters. So I created a year in a day, which is my content creation course, and it shows people how I created content sustainably and in a way that allowed me to take this health sabbatical. And so for a few years, this was fantastic. Also, in that first year, my old YouTube content was still bringing in leads. I had almost no drop off for close to 12 months, probably actually a little bit longer than 12 months. This means that my evergreen webinar funnel was getting the same number of leads from this content, and it was still converting just as well as it had before because the people who found me on YouTube were still binging content before opting into the class. So essentially, year one, other than long COVID, I was kind of riding high on this marketing shift. I had the same leads, same growth, spending less time, no negative impact on my business at all. Then came year two. Somewhere between the 12 and 24-month mark, I started noticing a few things. First of all, my evergreen content was bringing in fewer leads. Essentially, new content wasn't going up on YouTube, old content was aging out, and YouTube was recommending it less. I wasn't too worried though, because the ads were still doing great at this point. But somewhere in that year, I started getting comments on my ads asking me if I was still in business because I hadn't posted in over a year. And this actually baffled me. My audience are small business owners, and they obviously didn't understand marketing or the fact that social media is only one form of marketing. Why would I have ads going if I wasn't still in business? But looking back, I can see it clearer than I could then. This was the start of the trust recession that we're in now. And especially in my niche, anyone can call themselves a business coach, and too many people have been burned by one before. So without a way to validate me through social media, they didn't know who I was, and they didn't know whether or not I was right for them. So at first, what I did was make some adjustments to my messaging in that funnel. I started leading with my accreditation and with client results, and this plugged that hole, at least temporarily. But I was seeing that my ad costs were rising and my conversions slowly started to drop over that year. Then came year 3. Ad costs were rising, conversion rates were flatlining, and I had become so out of the loop with my sabbatical that I didn't realize what I was up against in the marketplace anymore because I wasn't plugged into it. Now, thankfully at this point, my health was starting to improve. I knew I wanted to start growing again or really putting a lot of effort into scaling. And so I started to dig, I started to do some market research into my ideal audience, and I recognized the trust recession early last year, and that completely justified the skepticism in the marketplace. I also started consuming some of the content that my audience was consuming to really understand the messages and the mistakes that they were falling for so that I could adjust my marketing to better counter them. I also did a few other things. First was a rebrand. After 3 years of being sick, I needed a refresh anyway. Everything from my personal style to my business brand got an upgrade. Somewhere in that time, I also got my accreditation as a small business consultant to better counteract the BS business coaches that were out there. And I started to slowly dip my toe back into social media. And I will tell you, oh my gosh, it has not been easy. After so many years off of the IG platform, my content was getting no traction. I actually went through my 5K Instagram followers, and I found that 80% of the hundreds of accounts that I looked at were not even on the platform either. Many of those that weren't business owners or weren't anymore, but they were followers from years ago. And because of this, the people who were business owners weren't even being shown the content because I just didn't have an active audience. So yes, I had 5,000 people on my Instagram, but I started looking at it more like I probably only had about 500. And the same thing applied to my YouTube channel. My strategy had been about 90% SEO, so I never had a strong subscriber to view ratio in the first weeks a video went out anyway. But a lot of my subscribers had either moved on or they didn't remember me just because it had been years. So although I had like 25,000 subscribers, not all of them were engaging anymore. And here's the thing I didn't think about. Every year, we experience attrition in our audience naturally, right? Essentially, people are moving on or they're moving out. But we don't notice it if we're consistently growing that audience because we're replacing them. But because I wasn't growing my Instagram or my YouTube audience, the two main platforms that my ideal client looks for me on, I wasn't replacing the churned audience. The follower count didn't drop, but the slow loss in audience retention meant that I was coming back to a much smaller engaged audience than the numbers actually showed. I was also coming back to a very different landscape. SEO is still good, especially on YouTube and especially in certain niches, but SEO is changing rapidly because people are leaning more and more into AI search. And attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, which means short form is being added to the top of funnel marketing strategy and then leading people to long form for interest and consideration before they're going any further. Add to that the whole trust recession, and I was starting to see something that I didn't want to see. My audience expected me to be on social platforms, a lot of platforms. And I was faced with, and to an extent am still facing, this rock and hard place decision. Personally, I still don't use social media on a personal level. I don't scroll IG. I don't even have the TikTok app. I use YouTube when I'm looking for something, or maybe if I want to zone out watching dog videos, but I have no desire to live my life through a screen. I had to do that for 3 years when I was stuck on bed rest. And yet, I have a business, and that business isn't all about me and what I want. It's about serving other people. And while I want to do so in a way that also serves me, I also recognize that sometimes we need to do things that we don't love in order to be able to do what we do love. Now, I still don't think every business needs to be on social, and not because it's my personal preference, but because I have many clients, as well as my husband, who's a business owner, all building successful businesses without it, or just with a very casual, light presence. If you're not sure if that's you, ask yourself, where do your people go to find you? And where do they go to validate you once they found you? Because if those answers aren't social media, you can safely turn your accounts into a business card or a sales page like I did for years. And by the way, if you want that business card strategy, check the link for the description. If you find, like I did, that the answer is social media, you still get to decide how to sustain it. Maybe it's a more casual presence. Maybe it's only certain platforms. Maybe it's outsourced. For me, I have been going back into social media big time, but also not. You see, I started slowly increasing my posting in January of this year through June, when I decided to go all in on a very crazy experiment. I am currently posting on 6 platforms, a total of 90 plus posts per week. And yes, it's a lot. And I'm gonna share the early results of this experiment next week, so make sure you're subscribed for that. The goal is to find what platforms are worth it, figure out a sustainable way to do it as a tiny team so that I can share that with you, knock off the rust and master the new strategies for these platforms, revive these dead accounts, and ultimately drive more KPIs in my business. Like I said, I'm sharing the early results in a video next week, so make sure you're subscribed. Now, you might be wondering how to balance all of this content with your own personal values, or how I do it. I still don't like social media. I don't like what it does to my brain. I don't like how it tries to take over my day, and it could seem like those values are in conflict with my marketing plan. So here's how I navigate this. I can't tell you what's right for you, but I still don't consume content personally. I have the IG and the YouTube apps on my phone now, but I only use them for either business tasks or during business hours to get things scheduled or to do research. It's not been easy, especially to shift my brain to being in content mode again, like just remembering to take pictures of things or post stories. I'm so used to not living behind my phone that when I need to, I'm forgetting to. Basically, I have very clear boundaries, and my time away from social media has just made it really easy to maintain those boundaries, because I feel it when I don't. I feel scattered and overwhelmed and fuzzy with just too much input, right? And it's so easy to stay away from it because the addiction no longer feels good. But also, my values for reaching more people are stronger. I see what y'all are up against and the bad advice that you're being fed, and it pisses me off. I want to be a voice of reason in all that madness, and I want to help small business owners succeed without burning themselves out. So whether you decide to quit social media or not, remember this. It is still your business. You still make the rules, even when it comes to marketing. But the rules you make should be based on your market, not just your preferences. There is a way to be on social media and not have it take over your whole life. Maybe not by posting 90 times a week, trust me, that is taking over my whole life, but your business does not have to burn you out. For help in designing one that works for you, be sure to join the waitlist for Breakthrough Boss and learn how I've built and help other people build profitable businesses that we actually love. And let me know below your thoughts on all of this. Are you quitting? Have you already quit? Why or why not? If you are, make sure you have a clear plan of action for what you're gonna be doing in your marketing instead. Don't do what I did and just respond to market feedback as you go or react to your own circumstances. I was kind of thrown into it, so I had to, but I would recommend to be more intentional. Know how you'll quit and what you're gonna do instead. It is still possible, but only if you have a plan. Leave a fist bump in the comments if you watch to the end, and remember, you got this.